Hi guys, today we're going to be reading Mercy Watson, Princess in Disguise. Oops, wrong page. Chapter 1. Mr. Watson and Mrs. Watson have a pig named Mercy. Mr. Watson and Mrs. Watson and Mercy live together in a house at 54 Deckaroo Drive. One October afternoon, in the living room of the house on Deckaroo Drive, Mrs. Watson had an idea. "Darling," said Mrs. Watson. "Yes," said Mr. Watson. "Halloween is coming." "It most certainly is," said Mr. Watson. "I believe that Mercy should dress up," said Mrs. Watson. Mercy opened one eye. "I believe that Mercy should dress up and go trick-or-treating," said Mrs. Watson. Mercy opened both eyes. She liked very much the sound of the word treating. "What a splendid idea," said Mr. Watson. "But what should Mercy be?" Chapter 2. "Should Mercy be a ghost?" asked Mr. Watson. "I don't think so," said Mrs. Watson. "A pumpkin?" "Not quite," said Mrs. Watson. "A pirate, a robot, a witch?" No, said Mrs. Watson. Mercy sighed. She closed her eyes. She fell asleep. "What then?" asked Mr. Watson. "What should Mercy be?" "I'm quite certain," said Mrs. Watson, "that Mercy should be a princess." "Of course," said Mr. Watson. "It is obvious. Why didn't I think of that? You must go and find her a tiara," said Mrs. Watson, "and I will make her a princess dress." "I'm on the case," said Mr. Watson. "Oh, Mercy," said Mrs. Watson, "you will be so lovely. You will be beautiful beyond compare." Mrs. Watson measured Mercy from snout to tail. She measured her from side to side. And around. "Heavens," said Mrs. Watson. "I hope I have enough fabric." Then Mercy woke up from her nap. Mrs. Watson was smiling at her. "Darling," said Mrs. Watson, "your dress is finished." "Oink!" said Mercy. "I know," said Mrs. Watson. It is stunning, isn't it? Let's try it on." Mrs. Watson put Mercy's right front leg into the dress. Mercy took her right front leg out. Mrs. Watson put Mercy's left front leg into the dress. Mercy took her left front leg out. "Goodness gracious," said Mrs. Watson. "Please hold on. Or please hold still, or we will never get this dress on." "My darlings, my dears," called Mr. Watson, "I am home, and I have located the tiara." "Oh, Mr. Watson," said Mrs. Watson, "I'm having a difficult time here. Mercy does not want to wear her princess dress." "Perhaps," said Mr. Watson, "you should tell her about the treats." Chapter 4. Mercy pricked up her ears. She liked treats. Her favorite treat of all was toast with a great deal of butter on it. "My darling, my dear," says Mr. Watson. If you wear this dress, everyone in the neighborhood will give you treats. Mercy closed her eyes. She could see it quite clearly. But if you want the treats, you must wear the dress, said Mr. Watson. Mercy signed. She allowed Mrs. Watson to put her left front leg and her right front leg into the dress. She allowed Mrs. Watson to zip the dress. She allowed Mr. Watson to put the tiara on her head. Mercy's stomach growled. She was looking forward to the treats. Chapter 5. On Halloween night, the doorbell rang at Lincoln's sister's house. Ding dong! Sister called baby Lincoln. Somebody is at the door. Of course somebody is at the door, said Eugenia. It is Halloween. People are expected to be at the door when it is Halloween. Maul, said Regina. Washington, Regina Lincoln's new cat. Trick or treat, shouted Mr. Watson and Mrs. Watson. Oink! Said Mercy. Mercy is a princess, said Mr. Watson. She exactly looks like a princess, said Baby. She looks like a pig in a cheap dress, said Eugenia. Oh, sister, said Baby. In my opinion, said Eugenia, pigs should not go trick-or-treating. In my opinion, pigs should not pose as princesses. Meow, said General Washington. Oh dear, said Baby Lincoln. Eugenia Lincoln slammed the door. Chapter 6. Eugenia seems upset, said Mr. Watson. Yes, and Mrs. Watson, she does. Mercy's stomach growled. Where are the treats, she wondered. Where is the toast? Look, said Mr. Watson, I think that Baby is trying to tell us something. Oink! Said Mercy. She kicked up her heels. She ran around to the back of the Lincoln sisters' house. Follow that princess, said Mr. Watson. Chapter 7. Baby Lincoln was waiting at the back door. Shh, she said. I am afraid that sister is not in a Halloween sort of mood, but I could not let you leave without your treats. Yum, said Mr. Watson, with a delicious area. Said Mrs. Watson, what shall we choose, Mercy? Ding dong! Baby, shouted Regina, where is that treat bowl? I'm on my way, sister, shouted Baby. Hurry, hurry, Baby said. Take something. Mercy examined the treats closer. She did not see one single piece of toast, but she did detect the finest hint of butter. Butter, thought Mercy. Oh, said Baby, Mercy. Chapter 8. Oink! Said Mercy. She sniffed the door. There was a lot of candy. There was a lot of candy everywhere. Candy was not toast, but it would have to do. Mercy munched a lollipop. She ate a lemon drop. She chewed a camel. What is going on here? Shouted Regina. Why is the candy on the floor? And what is that pig doing in my kitchen? She's not a pig, said Mr. Watson. She's a princess. Mercy crunched a butter barrel. That Mercy butter. Chapter 9. Get out of my kitchen immediately, screamed Eugenia Lincoln. Well, said Mr. Watson, I think it might be time for us to skedaddle. Yes, indeed, said Mrs. Watson. We still have quite a lot of trick-or-treating to do. Come along, Mercy. Mercy was eating her second butter barrel. It was delicious, and there were so many butter barrels on the floor. Meow, said General Washington. He swatted at the ruffle on Mercy's dress. Yip, said Mercy. General Washington took a swipe of Mercy's tiara. Yow, said Mercy. The cat, said Mr. Watson. The pig, said Eugenia. Oh dear, said Baby Lincoln. The cat ran out the kitchen. The pig ran after him. It was a chase. Mercy loved a chase. Chapter 10. General Washington ran. Mercy ran after General Washington. Regina ran after Mercy. Baby ran after Regina. Mr. Watson ran after Baby. Mrs. Watson ran after Mr. Watson. Meow, said General Washington. Oink, said Mercy. Pig and Regina, said Regina. Sister, said Baby. Darling, said Mr. Watson. Dear, said Mrs. Watson. General Washington ran through the living room and back into the kitchen. He ran out the open door. Mercy was in hot pursuit. Her dress felt a big snug, but it did not slow her down. She was having an excellent time. Chapter 11. Frank and Stella are brother and sister. Frank and Stella live at 50 Jackawoo Drive. Look at that, said Stella. What is it? Asked Frank. It's a Halloween parade, said Stella. Stand back, said Frank. It looks dangerous. Wait for me, Stella shouted. I want to be in the parade too, Stella, shouted Frank. Stella! Chapter 12. General Washington raced to the end of Jackawoo Drive. He ran up to the trunk of an old oak tree. Mercy stopped. Behind Mercy, Regina did not stop. Regina bumped into Mercy. Baby bumped into Regina. Mr. Watson bumped into Baby. Mrs. Watson bumped into Mr. Watson. Stella bumped into Mrs. Watson. And Frank bumped into Stella. Mercy looked up at General Washington. She signed. She sat down. The chase was over. Mercy was very tired. She was very hot. Her tiara was pinching her ears. Her pink dress felt terribly snug. And even Porcine Princess cannot climb trees. Chapter 13. Well, said Stella, I guess the parade is over. Nothing is over. Regina Lincoln shouted. She stared up into the branches of the tree. General Washington said, Regina, come down here immediately. Meow, said General Washington. General Washington said Regina, I will not take no for an answer. Meow, said General Washington. Cats don't usually do what you ask them to do, said Stella. Nonsense, said Eugenia. General Washington always obeys orders. I think that cat is stuck, said Frank. Nonsense, said Regina. General Washington is too intelligent to get stuck. Eugenia called General Washington again and again, and General Washington would not move. I think, said Mr. Watson, it might be a good time to call the fire department. Chapter 14. At the fire station, the phone rang. Ned took the call. How's that? Said Ned. General Washington, said Ned. Stuck in a tree, said Ned. Right, said Ned. We're on our way. That was a strange call, Ned said. To Lorenzo. Apparently a general is stuck in a tree. Said Lorenzo. What is the address? Uno. Somewhere on Deckerwood Drive, said Ned. Deckerwood Drive, said Lucinda. That is where the pig lives. Oh boy, said Ned, we'd better hurry. Chapter 15. When Ned and Lizeno, I don't know how to pronounce that, got to Deckerwood Drive, they saw a large oak tree. Underneath the oak tree was a pig in a pink dress with a tiara on her head. It is just a suspect, said Lizeno. There is that pig, yes, said Ned. But where is General Washington? Thank goodness you are here, said Baby Lincoln. What took you so long, said Regina Lincoln. Is that General Washington, said Ned. He pointed to the great cat high in the oak tree. Of course it is, said Regina Lincoln. Meow, said General Washington. Lizeno got a ladder from the truck. He leaned the ladder against the tree. He climbed up the ladder. He reached out and grabbed hold of General Washington. He climbed down the ladder. He put General Washington into Regina's arms. Hooray! Everyone cheered. You can always count on the fire department, said Mr. Watson. That is what I say. Oh, said Mrs. Watson, we should celebrate. We should have a party. Mercy picked up her ears. Parties and Merson experiments almost involved toast. Chapter 16. Everyone was in the Watsons' kitchen. Everyone was gathered around the Watsons' table. Have you ever had the toast here? Lillian asked Stella. No, said Stella. You are in for a treat, said Ned. The toast here is excellent. Eating food at a stranger's house is pointedly dangerous, said Frank. But we are not strangers, said Mrs. Watson. We are your neighbors. Meow, said General Washington. Bah, said Regina Lincoln. Who needs neighbors? Oh, sister, said Baby. Here, have a butter barrel. My darling, my dear, my porcine princess, said Mr. Watson. Aren't you glad you put on the pink dress? Mercy put her snout in the air. She sniffled. Bread was toasting. Butter was melting. The pink dress was terribly snug, but it was worth it. Oink! Said Mercy. Happy Halloween, my darling, said Mr. Watson. Happy Halloween, everyone. The end. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Bye.